This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
From north, south, east, and west, North America, Japan, and back again, this is your home for modern-day wrestling. With the occasional trip back in time, it's Place to Be Nation's main event. Now let's head into Studio B with your host, Scott Criscolo, and the Godfather, Nate Milton.
Welcome to Place to Be Nation's main event, episode number 109. This, of course, is your one-stop shop for all things modern wrestling here, there, and everywhere. And where are you? You are here, and we are too, so that kind of worked, the synchronicity. I am the Godfather, Nate Milton. I am one of your hosts here on this wonderful journey that we're going to be taking this week, this convoy, if you will. But joining me, the bandit to my Smokey, that's all I got with Burt Reynolds, Steve. So let's not even waste any time because I want to bring him in. He is the conscience of Place to Be Nation, and he is my pro bono therapist. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the one and only Steve Wille. Brother Wille, how you doing this week?
Slap the porpoise. That's my my shout out to the also deceased Mike Hodgwood, who is Ring of Honor's television guy from they were on
I hate that
HD
the show
Net.
is turning into like a tribute show. Like the last episode we did, of course, was after the passing of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. And then this week's episode, of course,
now you play it all about the Hey, guys,
Scott, what are you doing here?
What's going on? What are you doing? We're recording tonight?
We're doing the show.
We're doing a main event. Yeah.
I sent you the email.
No, I got an email from sexygodfather@hotmail.com that said, stand outside Studio B dressed like a giant penis.
I mean, I do put the hot mail in hot mail.
So I found my best looking Jordan Duncan outfit, and here I am.
Complete with exquisite Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
We heard on last episode.
How come none of you guys are dressed like Big Schlong? Oh, man, that son of a bitch. Man, he hacked you. Fucking Russians. Damn it. Anyway. Well, guys, I'm here. And, who sat my... Look at this giant ass crater in my seat. You guys let Jordan sit in my fucking seat.
That's not an ass crater. That's his head.
Jesus Lord. Look at this fucking chair. That fuck.
It was either that or let him crash over here.
Jesus.
I was not going to let him crash at Chateau Godfather.
Oh, shit. No, the futon's only for me when I bring the candles, Chinese food, and the fine women, like Venus Flytrap. Anyway. Guys. Yeah. It's good to be here. It's good to be back. Welcome, everyone. I heard the beginning, so I won't go into all the things. Guys, in all seriousness, you did an exquisite job 2 weeks ago. Thank you for doing your awesome best in my absence. I greatly appreciate it. Great episode.
You know, we're like the Shield. Everybody has a role, but you know, we can work in singles or pairs or you know, whatever configuration you want. We work best. We're fisting each other as a trio.
It is. It's like the Freebird rule. What do you think, Steve? Right? you don't have.
Wait a second. I call dibs on Jimmy Jam.
I'm definitely Terry Gordy. I have the build. Steve has Michael Hayes' hair.
There you
go. Maybe he was listening to The Clash when he was a kid. Nah.
Yeah.
Guys, we got a great show tonight, actually, in all seriousness. Because this past weekend, of course, we're not talking WWE and whatever the hell happened Monday night on Raw. We're not getting into that. Because in 2 weeks, episode 110,
you don't want to talk about Willie Nelson, or I think that was Willie Nelson. It might have been Shawn Michaels, but it kind of looked like Willie Nelson. You don't want to talk about Willie Nelson hyping up your boy Triple H?
Willie Nelson. To all the girls I've screwed over before. No,
why is the redheaded stranger on Raw?
With that short red hair.
Sad eyes.
That was actually a great. Promo. But no, it was more the end of the show, which mimicked the end of the 1994 Royal Rumble title match. All we needed was Yoko and the 50 heels shoving Taker into it. I was waiting for Dean Ambrose to be risen above the screen because that's exactly what the fuck we did. But anyway, we're not getting into that because in 2 weeks in episode 110 we will recap the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So no WWE tonight. We got a lot to talk about. Because this past weekend, gentlemen, was the big show, and I'm actually really pumped that our show this week landed here because I am crazy stoked about talking about All In, which I watched on Labor Day, all 3 hours and 56 minutes of it, which I thought was a little long, but we'll get into that. I'll get into the few little I don't say cons, but a couple of little nitpicky things, but that I had, but. All In took place on a Saturday night in Chicago, and we'll talk about that in here in the A block. In the B block, though, a show that very much was the same as All In, except people were running all out. And that was this week is our classic TNA pay-per-view recap, and we'll go back to July 8th, 2002 for TNA. Did I get the date right? I think I did. I'm sure I got it right. No, I'm sorry. I got the numbers mixed up. It wasn't 7-8. It was 8-7.
8-7. Yeah.
It is August 7th, 2002 for NWA/TNA pay-per-view number 8, which had some actually pretty memorable moments, and then one not so memorable moment.
It's definitely memorable. It will etch a picture in my head for the next few years.
Yep, till the end of time. Yeah. But guys, let's talk about this past weekend in Chicago. An unbelievable event, Saturday night in Chicago. All In, which had been talked about for months and months and months. It finally went down. I didn't watch it live, as I just said. I watched it Monday off the New Japan Pro Wrestling World. Had it on their app, of course, because a few of their guys were on. Made a lot of money. As a matter of fact, Pro Wrestling. As a matter of fact, guys, I don't know if you heard this or not. Pro Wrestling Tees apparently made almost $500,000, almost half a mil on their sales. Because they actually had a storefront.
Yep.
That was open from Monday to Sunday. So they were even open the day after All In for people that hung around, because obviously you're not going to fly out in a red eye after the show. So they made some pretty decent money.
What's crazy? Their regular store is nowhere near the facility.
Really?
So they had like buses taking people back and forth, and I do think they had a pop up at the hotel during the Starcast as well. But yeah, they were doing signings with Punk and Okada. I think those were the two big ones that they had that sold out like instantly.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we had Starcast, our man Conrad Thompson, and his looked like apparently it was a pretty good day Friday. A lot of big shows. I'm sure they all dropped. They'll all be dropping this week in their relative podcast networks, including Bruce's, I assume.
Bruce from TNA?
Bruce, no. We'll talk him in the B block. He had a very busy evening back in 2002. Yeah, because when I think of Bruce, I think of Bruce Pritchard, precisely. So, there were 11 matches, 2 on the pre-show, 9 on the main show. Let's talk about some incidentals and some aesthetics before we get into the meat and potatoes. Your broadcast team was, for the life of me, what the fuck was this moron's name? Ian
Riccoboni, who's the lead announcer for Kevin Kelly, for Ring of Honor.
For Ring of Honor.
Replaced Kevin Kelly.
Kevin Kelly has a lead announcer everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
There's announcers entering a room.
Yes. Excalibur and Don Callis. And then Dalton Castle was on the pre-show doing the Battle Royal. Mandy Leone. Is it Leone or Leon?
Leon.
Leon, yeah.
Leone. And, of course, Tennille Dashwood, a.k.a. Emma, during the women's match. And then Brett Tanning.
Yeah, I had no idea who that guy was. Evidently close to to Cody. And Nick Aldis, from that matter.
Yeah. Anyway, he did the Cody Aldis match. I'm not a big fan of Riccoboni. Not a fan. I didn't think he was. I don't think he's very good. I think Kevin should have done the show, to be quite honest with you. I love Don Callis. As a matter of fact, I think Vince should hire Don Callis and have him replace Corey Graves. Because I think I just think the guy, he's smooth, he's calm, he gets it. Yeah. He doesn't spend time putting himself over. I was very happy, Nate, with Callis in particular in terms of the broadcast team.
Yeah, Callis has always been good. You know, he's somebody that gets it. And if you're a current watcher of Impact, he is one of the best things about that show. I think, you know, not that Josh Matthews is great by any stretch, but I think the tandem of Callis and Matthews works a lot better than anything they've had since TNA and maybe Taz. Maybe even better than TNA and Taz. That's just because I wasn't a big fan of Taz on that show.
Yeah.
Yep. What do you think of...
Even though I love Taz in real life, I don't want to get any angry tweets from our Red Hook brethren.
That's right. No, not particularly that neighborhood, Nate. Definitely not. A few people I've talked to, Steve, that watched it were 50-50 on Excalibur. Some people thought he was good. Some people thought he was annoying. I thought he was fine.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I agree.
Yeah, he's one of the bright spots of PWG. Like, well, PWG is great, but I think his presence makes it. He's really smart. He's smart, period, but really smart in terms of being able to call moves. And then he brings like a really snarky, snarky, S-N-A-R-K-Y, not smarky, a sense of humor to it. Is like, you know, a lot of, like, Ian Riccoboni will like try to like throw in rap lyrics or something like that, and it just sounds so cheesy. But like Excalibur will throw in like some pop culture stuff that actually feels like it fits. Yeah, I really enjoy him. I would have really enjoyed Excalibur and Don Callis. I like Don Callis as a third man because he can bring some really good humor, especially if one of his guys are in it. The stuff with Omega and Jericho that was earlier this year was just fantastic when he was stuck in between his Winnipeg brethren. There are times that he can kind of check out. He did a few times in the show, but there was also, it can be hard to get your stuff in when there's basically two play-by-play guys running in there.
Right. I thought the set looked great. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it would, with all due respect, look a little, you know, kind of Ring of Honor 2002. But it didn't. I thought it looked nice. Nice stage, nice screens. I think Impact should take a note from whoever was doing camera work and who was working that, because they made the place look huge and sold out. I mean, no, it was, but it just looked great. And they made the place look like there was 100,000 people in there. So that was cool.
The Ring of Honor, I believe, had a bit to do. I think they hired them out. Like, I noticed, like, the screens they used were Ring of Honor. They use their I'm not in the biz. That camera, the roaming camera thing,
right?
That goes around. That was definitely their stuff. So I'm assuming they brought in some of the cameramen and such to work that out. So. Yeah, Ring of Honor 2002. Yeah, I mean, even Ring of Honor, like, 2006.
I know.
There was some bad stuff.
Or fucking, you know, TNA 2013. All right. What'd you think of the presentation? Now, did you watch it live, Steve?
I was not able to watch it live. I had work stuff to do, my volunteer stuff to do. So I came back about an hour in and then watched a couple hours. You know, I basically worked from an hour behind.
Right.
So I didn't have any spoilers, and then I watched the final two matches the next morning.
Okay.
Which is rare for me.
Right.
I rarely watch a whole wrestling show live unless I'm there.
Right. Nate, did you watch it live?
Yeah, I watched everything on Monday.
Oh, okay. I did too. I actually did not watch the pre-show because Mm-hmm. I did not watch the Battle Royal or the SoCal Uncensored Briscoe Brothers match because they were not on the New Japan app.
Right.
So I did not.
I watched it on the Ring of Honor stream because I am a member of that, and that was not on there as well.
Okay.
And it was a fantastic stream, by the way. I saw a couple of people complaining about it, and I've had problems with Ring of Honor in the past. I did not have one problem with the playback at all.
Yeah, both of those the pre-show matches were good. I did actually watch that the night of on WGN, and I think they picked two really good matches for that show because I think it if you were on the fence about buying it, the Battle Royal is one of the most well put together Battle Royals that I've seen in a while, and of course SCU is always good, but also if you're trying to float a balloon up WGN's way, like maybe this would be a partnership you'd be interested in pursuing. I thought that it worked well from that standpoint, and the ratings were actually pretty good. They weren't spectacular by any stretch, but for a show like this on a channel like WGN, I thought they did all right.
Yeah, they had 196,000, which you think it would not be that much, but just have to take in consideration that was 3 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Central. Not a normal, and it was a special, and it's on a station that's not in everyone's homes. It's not like WGN of my childhood where it was in everybody's homes if you had any cable. They're a really dumb company, by the way, but that's a whole other show. So I thought that it was a nice push, and I was really surprised with the ratings for it. To be honest, I didn't imagine it was gonna. I mean, at the time, like you have like some leftover auto racing, some local news, and basically commercials on. No one's really watching TV at that time.
Yeah. And it was the first weekend of college football too, so they had competition.
Yep, that Notre Dame was on at the time, and Bama was on at the same time. So yeah, absolutely. All right, let's fire through the results quick, and then we'll break it down. With as mentioned, SoCal Uncensored won the match. They beat the Briscoes on the pre-show, and Flip Gordon won the Battle Royal, the number one contenders Battle Royal, for a chance to face Jay Lethal later on in the evening for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title. Now, on the main show proper, Matt Cross defeated Maxwell Jacob Friedman, whoever that is. Christopher Daniels defeated Stephen Amell. I got comments.
He's coming an up-and-comer.
Is he? Okay. It was a good match.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It was a good match. Match was 9:23. Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, that was one that was added day of.
Okay. I know Matt Cross is like a veteran indie guy, so I know he was like...
he's been around forever.
Yeah.
He was even in those terrible backyard wrestling Insane Clown Posse games.
Oh, yeah, the video game. That's right, Nate. He was in that, like, it was a PS2 backyard wrestling video game?
Yep.
Yeah,
and they made
M-Dog
2 of
20.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Son of Havoc and Lucha Underground, so I was happy to see him get a shot on a big show. He's like a 20-year veteran.
All right.
Apparently not tough enough.
No. Christopher Daniels defeated Frankie Kazarian defeated Stephen Amell. I have comments on that match.
Me too.
Tessa Blanchard won the four-corner survival, beating Chelsea Green, Madison Rayne, and Britt Baker. And I did like the byplay with, of course, her father and father-in-law, who combined had one of my 5 favorite matches in the history of wrestling. The big one, and my favorite match of the night, Cody is your new NWA World Heavyweight Champion, defeated Nick Aldis. Hangman Page, who's now on my top 10 favorite guy list, defeated Joey Janela in the Chicago Street Fight. However, I have more than enough things to say about what happened afterwards. Jay Lethal defeated Flip Gordon to retain his Ring of Honor World title. And, of course, Jay Lethal came out kicking it old school, Black Machismo, with good old double joint himself, Lanny Poffo. Kenny Omega defeated Pentagon Jr., and we'll talk about what happened after the match as well. My man, Mr. Okada, who may be one of my 5 favorite in the world right now, defeated Marty Scurll. And in the main event, the Golden Elite, the Jackson Brothers, a.k.a., of course, the Young Bucks. And Mr. Ibushi defeated Rey Mysterio, Rey Fenix, and Bandito in a criminally short 11:48. But I know that's a big, not bone of contention, but I know that's a big sticking point that's been talked about since Saturday night. But I have an easy answer for that. We'll get to that in a minute. So there were your results. Nate, start us off. Just pick one thing that you took. We'll go around, talk about a few things, but just one general point you want to make about the show in general. A person, a match. Get us started.
I thought it was a really good show. I thought, it wasn't the best show of the year for me, but I thought it was a fine first outing. I really enjoyed most of the pacing of the show. I think, there were some issues in terms of timing of the matches. There was maybe a match or two that I would have left off of the main card. But if I were putting down my money just to, and all I got was the Cody Nick Aldis match and everything else was complete garbage, which it wasn't, I would have had, I would have gotten my money's worth. I would have gotten my value because I thought the storytelling in that match, the in-ring was good, the pomp and circumstance, it was not the greatest technical match that we would see that evening, but I thought just for me in terms of what I like the most from wrestling, because I do love, the technical aspect of it, but it doesn't mean anything without a story behind it, and this match had story in spades, so I think that match was great. It hopefully will lead to more opportunities for Nick Aldis and by proxy the NWA, the Billy Corgan NWA, Corbin NWA. No,
Yes.
Corgan's the singer. Corbin's the guy that made the U.
Constable Billy Corgan.
Yes.
And then there's Byron Corbin. Or Baron Corbin. Buddy whatever.
But, I think that it also just goes to show you what a smart performer Cody Rhodes is, but also what a smart businessman this dude is. I think that would be my biggest takeaway, is that, to me, this is a guy that, even if he does not sign with the WWE again, which I don't think he needs to, if that doesn't come to fruition, if that didn't come to pass, Cody Rhodes is somebody that is going to be a force in this business, whether you're talking in-ring, or in my opinion, even more prominent than in-ring, behind the scenes, in terms of promotion, in terms of booking, in terms of getting these companies to work together. That, to me, is the biggest takeaway from the weekend, because if you can get these companies to work together and at least, allow these performers to do different things and work different shows and make the business better, I think everybody benefits.
That match, the Cody Nick Aldis match, absolutely blew away my expectations. It was the match I was least looking forward to on the card. I'm not a big Cody Rhodes fan in the ring. I often think that he's bland. Just kind of middle of the road. His matches are forgettable. When I was at WrestleMania, they kind of started this angle. Nick Aldis was there. You wouldn't have even known Nick Aldis was there. It was like you realized afterwards he was sitting at ringside. When they announced the match, no one was really hyped for it all. I didn't watch the 10 Pounds of Glory YouTube show. I guess that was really good in building it up.
Yeah.
But even without that, the couple days before the show, when I saw Cody Rhodes giving the Nightmare Family jacket to Diamond Dallas Page, and you could see how important this was to him and how he only invited his best friends, and his best friends was Dreamer, Glacier of all people, DDP. There was his father-in-law and his brother-in-law, I believe, and you could tell walking to the ring how excited he was. Number one, to have put this show together and have it be such a wild success, but number two, just how important that this match itself was to him, and who is, and in a way, this is kind of funny that we're, what we're looking for in TNA, we're looking back at right now where they have the NWA championship at this point. But this championship in this match has meant more than any NWA match since, when? Probably well before TNA. I can't even, more before, Dan Severn had it and Steve Corino. It's been, back probably in WCW before that. This made the NWA championship.
I'm trying to think, when Sting won, was it the TNA title or was it still the NWA TNA title?
I think it switched over. It was in the weekly pay-per-views, wasn't it?
When Kurt had it, it was still NWA branded.
Okay.
So I think Kurt Angle might have been the last NWA TNA champion.
Okay. Well, we'll find out in about a year and a half if we keep going on TNA stuff.
That's long-term booking. So if Kurt had it, that might have been the last time it was relevant. But yeah, other than that, because the Jarrett stuff, the Jarrett reigns weren't memorable. As much as I love Ron Killings, that wasn't memorable. And as you said, Steve, this Ken Shamrock reign has been pretty damn pitiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff after TNA when it's, the NWA split off that was, not even a thing. There was, a moment a couple of years ago where Cole Cabana and Adam Pearce tried to do, a best-of-7 series and tried to bring it back. And unless you were really underground into the indie scene, you would have had no idea about it. So
actually, the last combo champion was Christian Cage.
Okay,
that's right.
They ended their relation on May 13th, 2007.
Okay.
So Christian Cage was the last NWA/TNA champion, and then they did the tournament, the Reclaiming the Glory tournament, and that's when current WWE employee Adam Pearce won the title.
Yep. So Kurt would have been the last relevant. I guess no shade to Mr. Cage, but Kurt would have been the last relevant NWA TNA champ.
Yeah, over a decade ago. So, in terms of that, possibly Billy Corgan can capitalize on that. Yeah, I'm assuming Cody's going to show up with that title in Ring of Honor. The match was okay, like you said, Nate, but every little pomp and circumstance that they threw, every bell and whistle that they threw in, made it worth it. And it didn't seem like an overbooked match. It all felt like it belonged. And man, did I pop to see DDP give the diamond cutter at 62 years old. A perfect diamond cutter.
It was.
The Daivari.
The bleeding took a little too long, though.
Yes.
It took a little too long.
It wasn't very realistic that they were calling an X on just a forearm on a dive when you see that on multiple matches on the same show often.
Yeah. For the most part, I don't want to say it was my match of the night, but it was pretty close. I just love the storytelling, and I think Nick Aldis deserves a lot of credit. I thought he looked awesome as a good heel, put on a good match. To Cody's credit, he acquiesced to his business partners on the main event. I also think that based on what happened at the end of the night, it was smarter to put this match here and the other match there, because that would not have been fair for Cody to have a big moment and then have to snap the thing off before we have a Halloween Havoc 98 where the fucking bars come up in the middle of the in the middle of the match. So now you think about it, smart to put that match there. I just loved everything about it. It was a great package. It had that awesome old school kind of Crockett feel. I liked it a lot. Steve, throw a point out there. What do you want to chew on?
Well, let's just go, since you brought up the main event in the end. That was my biggest disappointment. For me, that was one of the two matches I was looking for the most. I love a good spot fest when it's done well, and you had 6 of the best in the world. I'm not too familiar with Bandito. I've seen him live a couple times. I know he's from Dragon Gate and CMLL. I've probably seen him like twice live over Mania weekend. But Bray Phoenix, if you've been watching Impact or Lucha Underground, he's possibly, they even called him the next Rey Mysterio in terms of flying. Rey Mysterio is, a sight to see. This is getting to the end of his career. Kota Ibushi is one of my top 2 favorite wrestlers in the world, and this is the Young Bucks show. I was really disappointed when, a few minutes in, and I do have to give a lot of credit to Rick Knox, the referee, who really took control of that match to make sure that it got through, and you saw the final pinfall fall before the pay-per-view went off. I don't know if you guys heard a couple times he was, saying you guys gotta go home, home.
Yep.
So I can't imagine how hard that would be in a contest when people are just flying all over creation.
Right.
It's not like someone grabbed a chin lock and you can kind of whisper in their ear. So yeah, that was a disappointment for me, because if that match got 15 more minutes, my God, that would have been one of my favorite matches, perhaps of the last few years.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a disappointment, and there were definitely parts of the show you could have cut back. I'm looking at you, Marty Skrull. That match did not need to be 26 minutes. You could have taken the M-Cross match off, perhaps. You could have taken a couple minutes off of, here and there.
Inflatable dicks.
But, yeah, definitely.
Inflatable dicks. I'll get to that in a minute.
But one thing that I haven't heard, that and maybe people have brought this up, I'm going to be interested in seeing what the pay-per-view numbers, because they did traditional pay-per-view. That's the only reason why they had to cut it. If they just did on Fight TV, if it was, on Ring of Honor, they could have gone all day long.
Yeah.
They don't. But if with the traditional pay-per-view, which you don't get many numbers with anymore these days.
Nope.
They could have gone as long as they wanted to. So it will be interesting to see when those numbers came out, if it was worth it. If they pulled, 25,000 buys or something like that, well, you multiply that by $50, I think they were charging for the traditional pay-per-view, because, like the providers need to take their $10. Then that's, quite a substantial amount of income. If it's much less than that, I wonder if it would have been better off just keeping it on the ROH and Fight TV feed, just to make it a better all-around show. That's my only big negative of the show. No, and it's more my personal disappointment, because I could have watched that go for an hour.
Well, I also think there were, I guess, Tommy Dreamer, who came out with Cody, was, I believe, formatting the show and kind of doing the running the show. Somebody said to me at, I forgot who it was, but somebody said to me, maybe Bruce Pritchard should have been invited to help format it.
But I think Cody and the Bucks wanted this to be their show. They wanted to be the ones running it. I mean, you saw Nick Jackson with the headset on, in one of the little skits. They wanted this to be their thing, and it was their first show, running a show. I can't imagine how hard that is to run. I mean, look at Raw. How many years have they been going over there? A lot of time slot. You don't have a regular ending to that show. Right. It's never ending at 10 o'clock. It doesn't end at 10:05. It's all over. I'm thinking Central Time here. You can go anywhere from 3 after to 20 after. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Nope,
and that's a traditional cable show. So I can't imagine how it is running a show the first time.
I know a lot of places where they could have cut. As much as, in the indies, you could be a little more... flexible and open with creative license. The storyline that Joey Ryan's boner has more work rate than he does is utterly ridiculous. And as much as the Hangman Page Joey Janela match,
I see what you did there,
was excellent. And it made me love Hangman Page, because I think he's a great talent. I would not do that finisher off a ladder again, because you'll fucking kill somebody.
God.
That was asinine. But I guess for this one show, as long as nobody gets killed, then it's fine.
That move just regularly looks scary.
It does. I agree. But did we need to spend, 10 minutes, 15 minutes with Drew Dicks or Dickids or whatever the hell they were, and then all this other bullshit at the end? This Joey Ryan's dead or whatever the hell the stupid storyline was. That was time that could have been used in the main event.
Especially that 5-minute refractory period afterwards.
Exactly, the afterglow. It was utterly, and I'll tell you why. And I was saying this to our good friend and main event contributor Johnny Reckless. Joey Ryan is a good wrestler.
Yeah,
but we don't see it enough. I think his gimmick is taking him over. Mm-hmm. The gimmick is that he's got a big dong. What the fuck is this? 1999? What's next? He's going to walk around with beaver cleavage? I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. I get the sleazy gimmick. I like the little, the lollipops and this. So that's fine. But you took so much time off a show that could have used time on the back end so inflatable Dickids could come out before he came out.
There were so many parts of this show that if you weren't watching the Being the Elite series, the web series, you would not get. So, I mean, it was not the best show to be coming in cold on. And I've watched some of it, but not all of it. The crowd ate it up because a lot of people there are following that. They're following the little storylines that are going on. Mm-hmm. Of basically Adam Page murdered Joey Ryan. It's really like I want to call it like high school skit type stuff on the show. Like it's purposely corny. So like that's why they took the phone out towards the end, and Adam Page was using it to bash Joey Janela. That's the weapon he used to kill Joey Ryan. So then Joey Ryan's resurrected. Blah blah blah. There's a lot of that kind of cutesy stuff on the show that if you hadn't watched the web series, you're not going to get.
Yeah, that would be my pushback, Scott, because I think I agree with you that I didn't need that. Me personally watching, I didn't need all that post-match stuff with the Druids coming out and all that stuff. But I look at All In very much like Infinity War, where this is the culmination of all these things that if you're into watching Being the Elite, which I'd catch an episode here or there, but it wasn't appointment viewing for me.
Right.
So there was a lot of stuff that I like. Is okay, that's cool, that's cute, whatever. It just wasn't for me. But the people that were in the arena and the people presumably buying this thing are the hardcores. And so, to use the Infinity War example, I could see somebody that is not familiar with the MCU being like, why are we spending 10 minutes with this Peter Dinklage dwarf? Like, what the hell is going on here? But if you've been following the stories and you know who this character is, it means something. And so, yeah, like it wasn't for me, and I definitely think they could have tightened that up. We didn't need 10 minutes of that. They could have given us 5 minutes of that. But I think for the customers that are the hardcores, who you would assume was the majority of the paying audience, I think they had to kind of deliver something on those web series.
Having said that, though, and I want to throw something out here, I think one thing that this show, I don't want to say exposed, but declared to a wide audience is that these indie guys who bounce around from building to building, country to country, if you're going to hook in your this crowd, and if you're going to open things up to a new audience, you need to show some charisma and show something to your character instead of just being a flippy floppy 30 minutes, next building, flippy floppy, next building, flippy floppy. And that's why I like the Hangman Page thing, even though we didn't need inflatable dicks. At least it was a storyline. Same thing with Cody and Nick Aldis.
Yep.
And Kenny and Pentagon, because at the end of the night, by the way, Kenny and Pentagon was a fucking amazing match.
Yeah, that was my match of the night. That was unbelievable.
And then all of a sudden, we get the lights go out. We get a beatdown. We get a Nacho Libre code breaker de code. And all of a sudden, off comes the mask, and standing there is Chris Jericho. And I literally, I was watching it with the doctor at his house on Labor Day, and I literally got up and said, "What the fuck was that?" That was one of I legitimately marked out and stood up for that.
Yeah, that match didn't even need that.
No.
But it was so great on its own. But then you add that in, that was something special.
But it proved a point, and it proved a point to Chris Jericho, from Chris Jericho to the rest of these guys on this show. This saga, and that's what it is. It's a saga between Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega is going all over the world. Mm-hmm. This is a storyline. This is psychology. This is storytelling. And I'd like to think that some of these guys who may not have to worry about that much when they're in New Japan or bouncing around from gym to gym or whatever, now you can see that Chris Jericho is telling these other guys, if you want to make it, they all want to have Triple H sign their checks eventually. They all do. When, who knows, but most of them do. They need to have something a little extra on their resume besides just being a superb wrestler. Because there's a bunch of superb wrestlers who flop. And I think Jericho and this deal with Kenny showed all these guys, you need to show a little something extra. You need some charisma. You need to carry more than just your ability with you in your briefcase when you're going from town to town. Am I right, Nate?
Yeah, and it goes back to the Cody and Nick Aldis match. Storytelling is a component that we don't often get, and even in the WWE, storytelling is something that I don't know if the people making these shows get. And so, yes, when you see it in that NWA Championship match, when you see it in this Penta and Kenny match, which was technically it was the match of the night. I might have the NWA title match just slightly, just like a hair higher, just because of the emotion behind it. But both of them were fantastic. And then you cap it off with Jericho coming out and promoting this will continue on his cruise, which is just, this is where we are in 2018 in professional wrestling. And yeah, you could see that there's guys and girls on this card that have what it takes to get to that next level. There's guys and girls that might need a little bit more seasoning. It's like minor league baseball. There are guys in AAA who are on the way up. There are guys in AAA who are on the way down, and there are guys who probably will be, Kevin Costner's character in Bull Durham. Like that's what they're going to be, and there's no shame in that. I'm not job shaming anybody here. Shout out to Trader Joe's. But I just want, I just want more of this from our independent workers. You don't have to go out there and kill yourself every night because, yes, it's going to be cool, and yes, some people will remember it. But for the most part, shows come and go. But if you can make somebody feel an emotion, if you can tell a story, that's what's going to stick and resonate with the audience.
And that's why I like Kenny Omega so much. It's not just that he has the in-ring ability. It's that he can, he's been behind a lot of this creative type stuff. And you watch his matches, and some people don't like it at all. I think it's great. Like in the G1 where he's wrestling Toru Yano, and he's Yano, and Yano's like tying him to the guardrail and to a young boy, and then he's got to figure out how to get into the ring with the young boy attached to him and attached to the guardrail and beat the 20 count. And then the next night he's doing like a 25-minute classic with Ishii, and then he's doing this dream match with Pentagon with completely different styles, and somehow these guys are able to get that accomplished with multiple different wrestling organizations. I mean, they had to go through New Japan, they had to go through Impact for that. They probably had to go through some companies in Mexico too. Like to be able to, I think that's where the Bucks and Omega are so good, is that they have that creative edge. Cody as well. They've been booking a lot of their Ring of Honor stuff. And Ring of Honor has let them. They're starting to bring their own creativity into New Japan, and there's been a lot of pushback from that, from what Matt Jackson said in an interview after All In. But they're realizing, New Japan, that it's taking off, and someone like Omega is becoming more of a worldwide star, and they're reaping benefits from that in the States. Selling New Japan T-shirts in Appleton, Wisconsin at the mall. It's crazy.
Yeah, and but I mean, that was incredible. Another point for me, because obviously you guys are a little more, admittedly, you guys are a little more in tune with some of these guys, some of these superstars than, sorry, I'm using a WWE term, wrestlers, than I am. So I've added a bunch of newbie favorites to my personal list. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about the complete package, a guy that I think can be hired right now, and I look at all of the guys that worked on Saturday night, every time I see him, to me, he's a bona fide star, and he can work in any company anywhere in the world, and that is Mr. K. Okada. Mm-hmm. He gets it. I call him the Japanese Ric Flair. Because it doesn't matter whether his opponent's a heel, it doesn't matter whether his opponent's a babyface, he walks down the ramp exactly the same way, with the aura of, I'm the shit, and you've got to beat me. Exactly how Ric Flair walked down that aisle from 1973 to 2000, whatever your point of view is. I'm going to say 2008 because that's me. But anyway, Okada, I'm not a big Marty Scurll guy, I'll be honest. He doesn't do much for me.
Either.
I'm not going to lie.
I'm not either.
Not going to do much for me. But the match didn't suck. It was okay.
No.
I enjoyed it. It was probably 8 minutes too long, but that's fine.
Yep.
And I think Kenny is almost there. I'm probably gonna get ripped for this, but if Okada is a full-blown 10 in the total package department, I think Kenny's like a 9 to 6. Sometimes Kenny still looks a little doe-eyed and goofy. Not often, but a little. Okada doesn't. Every time he walks down the ramp, he has that look of, I am the best in the world, and you've got to beat me. And Kenny did beat him, and that's why Kenny right now is the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. He did. But for 530-something days, nobody could. Because he's that good.
I like your comparison from Okada to between Okada and Flair. And the reason why I like it, sometimes when the guys from Japan come over to America, they don't give it their all. Tanahashi at WrestleMania, it looked like he was just going through some motions. And I felt that way with Okada a little bit here in the beginning, and he totally picked it up in the middle and the end. But it's kind of like Ric Flair. You can put Flair, back in the day in the 80s, you could put him in there with anyone, going across the territories, throw him in the ring with 60 minutes, and he had his stuff that he would work through. They'd be doing the headlock takedowns. They'd be on the mat. He'd work the way to the figure four. It kind of gradually build up, and he could go do that match in any town. And Okada can kind of do the same. He can come out. A lot of the finishes for Okada's matches are very similar in terms of the Tombstone Piledriver, the Rainmaker applied in some format, usually countered a couple times first. But he can get into this automatic mode, and he is way better than Marty Scurll is. But between the crowd liking Marty Scurll and Okada kind of carrying him along at the end. It ends up being a match that a lot of people loved. I agree with you, Scott. I think that a good 10 minutes could have been taken off the match. And that's also, like I said before, my bias wanting more of that Young Bucks match.
Right.
And not really caring to see Marty Scurll for 26 minutes.
Right. What do you think, Nate? What do you think of my thoughts?
I think you're mostly right. It's like Princess Bride. You're mostly dead. I think in a world where everything is merit-based, shall I say, Okada's a star in any company in the world, in any market, anytime, any place. But if we're saying for Okada to be a star in America, that means the WWE, I think Kenny has a much easier path because we've seen what the WWE has done with Japanese workers over the years. We're seeing it now where they don't really know what to do with Asuka.
Yep.
Where it took them a while on the main roster to get the Nakamura character right. And so, I think Okada, I'm not saying Okada would be a flop in the WWE, but if we're looking at Kenny and Cass and which guy would be the easier packaged product from this company, it's Omega all the way.
Okay. I agree with you creatively. I respectfully disagree with you business-wise. I'll tell you why. I have always said, and I've said this to people, many people I've talked with about these guys. Kenny, the Bucks, Cody, and now I'll even mention Ko Okada. I think Okada, in the end, I think is an incredible businessman. I think he knows the business in general. And I think... See, here's a problem. Again, I'm probably tooting my guy's horn, but I think it's obviously moderately legit. I think that Triple H can relate to these younger... about the same age as him, but maybe a little younger guys overseas, whereas Vince clearly doesn't.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I just think from a business perspective, Kenny is just a little too weird. I don't think Kenny likes the constraints. It's almost like a modern-day Steve Austin. I don't think Kenny has the restraint to handle like the WWE business model. I think he likes kind of going by the beat of his own drummer, which New Japan pretty much lets him. I think he likes living in Japan. So, I don't know. But, I mean, obviously, Nate, you're talking about it from a creative perspective, so I'm going off the rails here. But, yes, I think you're completely right in the whole trusting of what to do with Okada if he ever went to WWE. And that's obviously a topic for another day. But just looking at him, and I've seen, now that when we do our New Japan matches, which we have, hey, it's my turn in 2 weeks, maybe we'll find Okada. My point is, he just looks like he knows what he's doing. He gets it. And I think eventually, and I'm not saying New Japan is small potatoes. I'm not saying that, so I don't want anyone to think I'm disrespecting him by any stretch of the imagination. But I get a feeling that eventually Okada's going to be like, looking across the water, on the other side of this ball of mud called Earth, seeing the building just 8 exits from where I live right now and go, I can conquer that motherfucker. I know I can. And I think sometimes Okada thinks that. I think he would go to Triple H and say, Okada must know some English.
Yeah.
Right? Nate, Steve, does he know some?
Yeah, and he met with Triple H that first SummerSlam that was in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. That was that show where we went to the Ring of Honor show the night before, and then at the baseball stadium, and then went to the show. He ended up going backstage to WWE, so they've made connections. I could see it happening. I think he would be so over in NXT, it wouldn't even be fun. I mean, it would be bigger than Nakamura.
I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
And then the question is, what happens when he eventually comes up?
Does Okada walk around and Rochambeau everybody like Nakamura's been doing? So
he's doing stupid relationship angles with Dana Brooke. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Okada joins Titus Worldwide.
He puts the world in worldwide.
That's ridiculous.
He takes who was the guy? It was Tozawa, who was originally going to be the Japanese guy, and we're Titus Worldwide.
Yep. Hey, he did win the Cruiserweight title for a cup of coffee. Any final thoughts on the show in general? And then I have one last question, and then I have one more question. But any final thoughts, Nate, on the show in general? Yes,
because I'm going to say one of my thoughts because I think you're going to lead us to that in your last topic.
Okay.
I think you're going to hit the bullseye on that one.
Mm-hmm.
If you catch my drift.
Uh-huh.
But my only thing, I think this was a really strong first effort. It'll be interesting to see if this is something that is a one-time deal or if it's something that can be replicated. And by replicated, I don't just mean that they do it annually, but that it has those lasting ripple effects in the industry. But my only quibble, besides a couple audio issues with the production and, of course, the pacing of the show, would be that I would have liked to have seen more women on the show. and I would have liked to have seen more workers of color. We had a couple Japanese guys. We had a couple of the luchadors. We had Jay Lethal, obviously, and Scorpio Sky in the pre-show. But I would have liked because this to me was the Woodstock of indie wrestling, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
This is the showcase. This is the all-star game of, this is the best the indies has to offer right now. And I think I would have liked it just a little bit, if we had more than just the 4 women in that 4-way match. Because as we've seen, even with the WWE, women's wrestling is getting a lot more notice, and a lot of the quote-unquote women's revolution was started on the indies. And so I would have liked to have seen some more participation from the women and a little bit more participation from work color. But other than that, I thought this was a really strong show. At first, after my first viewing, I was going to give it a 9 out of 10. But for some of the issues I mentioned, I had to dial it back just a little bit. So I think I'll go 8 out of 10. But still, for first-time promoters, so to speak, with Cody and the Bucks, I thought they did a hell of a job.
What do you think, Steve? Final thoughts?
Actually, 8 out of 10 was going to be my rating as well. I can't disagree much with anything that Nate just said right there. I mean, they did have Penelope Ford in the street fight, and Brandy Rhodes played an important part, I think, in the NWA Championship match, and just used as comedy for a very bit part in the ROH title match. There is that bullseye that you need to hit. That match could have just. God bless Christopher Daniels. I mean, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
God bless him.
I mean, make that point. I said I was gonna make that point. I'm gonna make that point.
Yeah, that didn't need to happen at all. And that, I forgot about that when we were talking about the main event. You could have thrown Christopher Daniels in with SEU and the Briscoes and insert random guy here and had a 6-man, and that match would have been off the charts. And, Stephen Amell could have come to the ring with Cody as well or something, or just come to the ring with the Young Bucks and thrown a spot in there.
Yeah, because if you remember, when Cody and Stephen Amell wrestled at SummerSlam, WWE booked that in a way that Stephen Amell did not look like he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. These guys were not at that level of production and pre-preparation yet, so he seemed to kind of been exposed to try to legitimately wrestle, and as much as we love Ollie Queen, it didn't come off well at all. No, it wasn't good at all. No, it was a whiff. But
see, again, I'm gonna disagree slightly. I'm gonna say that for this show, it was definitely a miss. But if we look at it in a vacuum, I'm not gonna say that Stephen Amell failed the city. I think in terms of celebrity involvement in professional wrestling, we've seen much worse.
Oh yeah,
Stephen Amell, and I think if this were just something on a one-off show that wasn't, like I said, the Woodstock of indie wrestling, I was perfectly fine with it. But because again, this is a spot where hell, we could have had Jordan Grace or Lufisto or one of these other women, or again, we could have had a worker of color in this match, or we could have given more time to the main event. I think it didn't need to be on the show. But if we're just kind of critiquing Stephen Amell's performance, for a guy that is an actor who gets paid to pretend that he's fighting, I thought that the transition for him into this world of professional wrestling was better than I thought it was going to be, honestly. I thought he was going to be terrible. I was thinking Jenna Maraska level of of bad Stephen Amell. But, for a guy that is not a wrestler, I didn't think it was that bad. I just don't think it needed to be on the show. Hell, they could have put it on the pre-show. If you really wanted Stephen Amell there to draw eyes, I think he would have been better served on the pre-show, because you could have gotten the buzz off of that. Although maybe WGN didn't want to promote a guy that's on CW.
It's on CW, yeah. That's probably what it was. Yeah, it might have been a technical thing, business thing that maybe the guys didn't quite know,
Because you could have thrown him in there with Stephen Amell and the Briscoes versus SCU. Bam, you got it right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Man, honestly think, and I don't think that I know anyone who would have bought this pay-per-view because of Stephen Amell. Do you think there are people out there that plop down money to either go to the show or order it because of Stephen Amell?
Absolutely not. And okay, so that's why I think if you're going to use the involvement, the smart play, and again, maybe they couldn't do this because of the network they were on, the smart play would have been to use Stephen Amell on the free show. Because then you might get eyes. Like, I'm not going to pay to see Stephen Amell wrestle, but if I'm flipping through the channels, I'm like, is the Arrow wrestling? I might stop. And because I've stopped on that match, you might entice me to buy the pay-per-view, because you're hyping it up through this pre-show. But yeah, that to me would have been the perfect use of your celebrity involvement, because he didn't add anything to the show other than I did think it was cool that he came to the ring with Prometheus. I enjoyed that. But yeah, if again, this is one of those things like the Infinity War example. Like, if you're all in with, no pun intended, but if you're all in with being the elite, Stephen Amell meant something, I guess. But if that's not something you watch, why the hell is this guy here?
Right.
And the ones I watched, he wasn't even really around that much for that show, Amell, on the YouTube show. I mean, the best part of that match to me was seeing Jerlyn.
Wow, he got old.
Oh, well, he is old. I mean, he's in his 50s, and he's yeah.
He's old on our TNA remake.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, yeah.
He's probably.
We're going to talk about him in a minute.
Mid to late 30s, and about mid 30s when we were watching him for TNA.
Last question.
Real quick, the other thing I will say.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
I'll give props to Stephen Amell on it, and I'm glad Steve brought up the point of, are you buying this to see Stephen Amell? I think he's a guy that wasn't there for the pay, and I can respect that.
Yeah, I agree. I
wouldn't doubt that he gave money to help run the show.
Yeah,
wouldn't surprise me. Yeah,
or at least donated some of his wine, whatever the hell it's called.
And Prometheus, hey, he came out with Prometheus, so he should have come out with the mask on, talking like this.
See, that's what I would have paid to see. If there were a way that they could implement the CW DC shows into this show where we get Barry Allen show up for no reason, like, that's the Flash. He doesn't work for this company.
Flash comes and takes the penis druids away a lot faster.
Yes, the DC invasion. All right, last question, and then we shall go to break. As you said, I think you asked this, is this a one-time thing, Brother Nate? Or do we see it next year? And if we do, will it be somewhere else? Or will it stay in Chicago?
I think this is something that they do again. And this is something that Marcus and I were talking about on the Kings of Sport, and maybe it's a bit of homerism, but Marcus has actually swayed my opinion on this. Because at first I was like, let's just make this an annual thing in Chicago. But I honestly think they might do better financially, and certainly in terms of travel and logistics for the performers, if they do this in LA next year.
What do you think, Steve?
I think it will be done again, and my homerism says they should do it in Chicago every year. But I hear your point, especially since the Bucks are from that area. And if Omega is staying in Japan, it would be a much easier.
It's a much easier flight.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they do it next year, and I'm going to split the difference between the two of you. They're
not doing it in Hartford.
Damn it,
Nebraska!
They're going to do it in an airplane hangar? No,
Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Cheyenne, Wyoming, the Cheyenne Civic Center. I think they should do it at Nassau Coliseum, but that is a long flight. Or I agree with you about California, but I'm thinking more of the Cow Palace, San Francisco.
Yeah, that's not bad either. That's not bad either.
I think San Francisco will be where they go next year. So tell Marcus I agree with him, just wrong city. I think north instead of south. But
wait, I got it. The Nashville Fairgrounds.
It's like saying it's in Hog Mountain. We're going to take a break. Speaking of the Nashville Fairgrounds.
Hey, if the penises show up again next year, we can have Puppet come out and try to beat him.
I saw these costumes in the garbage can. All right, great first segment, guys. When we return here on episode 109 of the main event, we will go to the Nashville Fairgrounds, but we're going to turn back the clock 16 years to August 7th, 2002 for our next installment of our classic TNA pay-per-view recap. Brother Nate, Brother Scott, Brother Steve. 2 title matches, and more coming up after the break.
Because.
Thank you.
Life's the same, I'm moving in stereo. Life's the same, except for my shoes. Life's the same, you're shaking like tremolo. Life's the same, it's all inside you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place for Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceForNation.com. We offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, along with Main Event, Survey Says, the Monday Night Wars, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction show, as well as Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network podcasts and pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Match of the Week podcast, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Through the Years, Worldcast, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Center Stage, and Letters from Kayfabe, plus much more. And on our very popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, NBA Team, PTBN Play, Sunday Groove, Breaking Balls, and Lucha Undead,
as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans
with the hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversations, Geek and Sassy, and Marvel Age podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback today. All these shows, plus others, available at PlayStation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects, and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, and thehistoryofwrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
And welcome back, Place to Be Nation, to episode 109 of the Main Event. Brother Scott, Brother Nate, Brother Steve. Great A block, as we talked about All In. And now, for B block, we're all going to jump out the window. Although the Nashville Fairgrounds window is probably only like 3 feet from the ground. But anyway, before we do that, though, PlaceToBeNation.com, your home for everything pop culture. Keep voting in our greatest song of the 80s tournament. Weird voting going on there. I'm just going to leave it at that. Very weird.
Yeah, I was going to say, Scotty, much like Colin Kaepernick, I cannot stand when there is injustice. And right now, the voting in this, I don't want to disparage anybody, but to paraphrase the great American philosopher Kanye West, but Bananarama, I'm real happy for you, and I'm going to let you finish. But Michael Jackson had the greatest song in the 80s of all time.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to the finals or making our way to the finals, and Michael Jackson is on the verge of having 0 songs up for vote?
I have no idea. And there's a couple of Princes that are being bumped around, too. I have no idea. Some people are not all in on pop culture of the 80s. Anyway.
You can't have 80 songs without the 80s without Michael Jackson. It's like you need Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and cocaine. That's what the 80s was. The 80s in a nutshell.
Literally all at the same time. Okay. Anyway, vote in that poll. I don't know what road we went down there, but anyway.
We made sure to stay in the white lines, though.
Yeah. I'm starting to wear Reebok. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, anyway, check out the polls. Also, a lot of great written stuff as sports seasons, fall seasons commence. Myself and Mr. Logan Crosland, we are back on Campus Hot Takes. We had to take it. After a year hiatus, we're bringing them back, and our first installment of the Campus Hot Takes dropped this week. So check that out. The games from last week, including my beloved Dodgers and their big win over Michigan. This week they take on the Cardinals of Ball State. But a lot of other great college games this week as well. So check out the column. We also have some NFL preview podcasts. My PIC, Mr. Zero, Mr. George, with their No Holds Barred podcast as well. Next week, myself and the PIC will have episode 499, guys. Unbelievable. 490 of the Place to Be podcast. SummerSlam 1988 with Mr. D'Amato. You'll see that drop next week. Next Tuesday, I believe. So PlaceToBeNation.com, your home for everything pop culture.
Wait, whoa. Now, I am at PlaceToBeNation.com right now in the So Much Hair region, round 1. And what the hell? First of all, Prince is spelled wrong. Pince.
Well, that's why he's losing. It's not Prince, it's Pince.
It's Vice President Mike Prince.
Yeah. And Raspberry Beret, possibly the greatest Prince song of all time, is losing 61-39 to Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. Probably more known for, like, talk about 80s commercials, like when they would be trying to sell you like 6 cassette sets of the best of the 80s. And it was all shit pop songs. Come on. Prince. All right. Fuck.
Yeah, So Much Hair region. Well, looking at the So Much Hair region part 1, which dropped today on PlaceToBeNation.com, right now, I still think Kiss on My List losing is a fucking travesty, and I'll fight anybody on that one. At least Toto is winning big.
Mm-hmm.
I voted for the Bengals, but I have no issue with Video Killed the Radio Star because it is the first video that was ever on MTV, so I can't argue that point.
I did the same. I just voted for the Bengals, and but I have no problem with that either. That Video Killed the Radio Star is a great song, period.
Under Pressure is a tremendous song, and as much as I love Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes, and I love the video, I'm okay with Under Pressure winning.
It's one of my favorite songs ever.
Yeah. Whip It.
Under Pressure's great, but to me, Owner of a Lonely Heart just says 80s to me more.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Brother Nate. I don't disagree at all. Nope.
That to me was the question when I was voting. Like, am I voting for the best song, or am I voting for the song that's most indicative of the era?
Right. That's why I don't understand how Beat It's losing, but whatever.
Yes, because it's both.
Right.
Right.
In the Air Tonight winning is tremendous. Number 1, because it was on Miami Vice, and number 2, because I fucking hate We Built This City. It's probably one of the worst songs of the whole fucking decade, and it should be getting its ass kicked.
I like that song just for the reason that they give Marconi a shout-out. As a broadcasting student, that I love that Marconi got a little love.
I agree. As a broadcasting student, Brother Nate, I concur. The song still blows.
Yes.
It's also why Paul Kantner quit the band, because the song was so unlistenable.
Fun Steve fact, we had to sing that song, I believe, in 4th grade music class.
Oh my
and
God!
I had to sing it in a concert with the parents. That was one of the songs we sang. We Built the City.
Oh, you poor bastard. When I was in 8th grade, I got to sing That's What Friends Are For. That was kind of cool.
That's a good. Yeah.
We did too. In fifth grade, we sang that song.
I got to sing. I got to do the Elton part. In good times, and I'm not talking about like the South Park, the South Park Elton that sang "Love Gravy," but anyway, it's a tough one here, brother Nate, because I love Tone Loc, and Wild Thing is a tremendous song.
Or Ton Loc, as it says.
Oh my God! It says Ton Loc. No wonder it's losing. But
2,000
Down Under,
pounds
I mean, but
of
Down Under
Cole Medina.
Right? But Down Under is one of those songs.
Yeah, that's 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me.
Oof, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and We're Not Gonna Take It. That's Okada and fucking Kenny. That's tough.
Mm-hmm. That's a toss-up one.
An 11 vote lead for Queen, which is fine.
We're Not Gonna Take It again, just because like that literally screams 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree 100%.
My way of voting is number one. Is it my favorite? If it's close, then I'm going most 80s like.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, more polls will be up, so stay with it and keep voting on PlayStationNation.com. Guess what, guys? Just dropped the second edition of a tremendous podcast that I was privileged to be the first one on, and that is the Freak Out Drive-In with our good friend Jenny Smith. I was on the very first episode, and her and I did the original Halloween. Well, her and Greg Phillips were on episode 2, and they did Predator. With, of course, The Predator coming out next weekend, I think. So, check that out. Freak Out Drive-In number 2.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Some damn fool accused you of being messed.
I love Carl Weathers. And the body's in it. I mean, can you go wrong?
Yes.
Arnold, the body, and Apollo Creed. Duh. And then the other black guy. I can't remember his name. Ugh. The other guy. His picture's on the front of the website. Or is on the front of the article. It's Carl Weathers. You know, the other guy with the bald head. I can't think of his name. Anyway.
Lucas
Jr.?
No, the other guy in the first Predator. Go to the website and look at it, and you'll know who I mean. Guess what, guys? The excellent Network Adventure has returned.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, remember that? Way back. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Anyway,
I see the picture. Yeah.
The rebooted WWE Network Adventure, and the gang did Clash of the Champions 9, New York Knockout. Joel Barnhart has his September Major League Power rankings. Hard Traveling Fanboys, episode 124, the Fantasy Comics Draft. I want Thanos. So check it out. PlayStationNation.com, your home for everything pop culture. All right, guys. Time now to dive into the Fairgrounds Coliseum on August 7th, 2002 for our newest installment of events, Classic Pay-Per-View, TNA Pay-Per-View Recap. Number 8. Ocho. Not Ocho Cinco. Ocho. Your champions at the moment, your NWA World Champion is Ken Shamrock, your X Division Champion, AJ Styles, and your Tag Team Champions, AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. Your dark matches.
TNA is Bruce.
Yes. Many Bruce. Dark matches. Jimmy Rave. I know him.
Oh.
Beat Adam Jacobs. And Scoot Andrews.
Okay.
Yes, the Black Nature Boy.
Yep. Defeated Quiet Storm.
Oh, okay.
So
they're who did Scoot Andrews used to come out with? Is it April Hunter?
No, that was Slick Wagner Brown.
Okay.
Love Slick. I saw Slick Wagner Brown wrestle in khakis. And I saw him cutting promos on Twitter while eating Kung Pao chicken at Kowloon's. I love Slick Wagner Brown. Love Slick Wagner Brown. Anyway, had to say that.
Slick Wagner Brown, he was jacked to the gills.
He is jacked to the gills, but he forgot his luggage.
Just.
I was at an indie show in Mass with Mr. Zero, Mr. Rotella, and the gang, and I forgot we wrestled, but he forgot his luggage and had to wrestle in khakis.
Man, how did he get his pump on?
And then we saw him afterwards at Kowloon's, the famous Massachusetts Chinese restaurant where wrestlers go. It's kind of like the Massachusetts version of Ribeiro Steakhouse. And Slick Wagner Brown was cutting promos on Twitter while eating Kung Pao chicken. Pretty awesome. With Percy Pringle, a.k.a. Paul Bearer. God rest his soul. All right. Brother Steve, I'm pulling the ripcord on you, my man. Lead us into the Nashville Fairgrounds.
Well, we get a quick start of seeing the Dupps who are back and with Apollo and Goldberg waiting by Ricky Steamboat's door, demanding that they see him. Immediately, this is like, total Vince Russo crash TV here. It just goes. We get an X Division trios match between the Maximos and Amazing Red, the Spanish announce team, versus all three of the Flying Elvises, which means we get Jimmy Yang back.
We do.
And this is one of those matches that it is really hard to keep up with. I'm looking at my notes. I was like, oh man. They basically just paired off. Like Siaki and Red paired off together. Joel and Maximo and Yang. And shout out to Mike Tenay for telling us the difference between Joel and Jose Maximo, because I never knew the difference as I watched them back in the day, and saying, hey, this one has an elbow pad and this one does not. And God bless you, Mike Tenay. So the story is continuing that Sonny Siaki wants to do things on his own, do it his way. And basically, after a couple of weeks of this, Estrada got tired of it. Jimmy Yang got tired of it. So they took a powder for a bit, went to the booth, and just let the Spanish announce team triple team Siaki for a while. As Jorge, what was he singing? He was just kind of freestyling a little song to the tune of Elvis tunes, I believe.
Yes.
And it allowed like the Spanish announce team to do just ridiculous triple team moves. There was like a surfboard dragon sleeper combination.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then Amazing Red went off the top rope with a double stomp. It was absolutely just crazy. Macalos broke out their Spanish fly finisher, followed by Red's infrared finisher. It's like the murder, death, kill, finish him sequence of death. And then out of nowhere, Estrada and Yang actually make the save. Amazing Red still does a code red. And eventually, Estrada and Yang did a leg drop and splash combo up the top rope, which if you're into ECW, you'd recognize it as RVD and Sabu's tag team finishing move. Mm-hmm. And then Jackie sneaks in and covers for the win. It was a go fest. A pretty fun start. They've really done this well, I think, starting a lot of the pay-per-views with an X Division type match. And really gets the crowd pumped up and gets you pumped up. Like, okay, maybe this is going to be a good episode. Maybe this is going to be great. Still sucks me in 8 episodes in. Yeah. Still sucking me in.
Yep. That was a great opener.
Everything in ring I loved. I've always been a fan of Amazing Red, somebody who I think was severely underutilized by this company. Somebody that could have been their Rey Mysterio had they properly promoted this dude. Somebody who's still pretty young. Like, he's still in his mid-30s. And it's like, you waste this guy's career for the most part. And the Spanish announce team as a trio, I thought they were always good. The Elvises, we know what they're about. My only issue with this match is, why are we still doing this story? Like I thought the last, on pay-per-view number 7, I thought that was it. I thought that was the last straw for these guys, and now they're back. And this would be a fine story. It wouldn't be a great story, Scott, but it'd be a fine story if it were the only story of its kind on this show.
Right.
But when it's taken back to AJ and Jerry Lynn, I care about what's going on with those guys. I don't really give a damn about Sonny Siaki getting a big head.
Yeah, I don't either. The match was great, though. Your time, 11:43. But I agree with you, Steve. It was a go. They didn't stop. 6 good workers. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Good opener. Stunned by what we see next. Our first of our 2 title matches of the evening, Steve.
Yeah, before we get there, there's a lot of backstage stuff. Not very important. Apollo just upset that he's getting passed over.
Yes.
Jerry Lynn comes out of nowhere and beats up AJ Styles, throws him into the chairs and the table. Great line. They're fighting in the John. That was reminiscent to me of Dusty Rhodes calling Benoit and Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
And the only reason I really brought this up is because breaking up the fight, and does so later when there's another pull apart with AJ, is Bullet Bob Armstrong, one of the white NWA representative leaders, wearing a red tank top with his old man curly gray arm hair coming out.
So bad.
It was so bad in Bush League, but I got a nice kick out of it. We went right. Steamboat comes out. For some reason, the country music gave the Dupps permission to do whatever they wanted to because they have a heavyweight championship match right now. Steamboat gave it to the opportunity to Truth the previous week, and it's Ron Truth against Ken Shamrock. And at first, I was wondering why the heck is this match taking place 20 minutes into the show, and I again have to give it to Mike Tenay here. He said, hey, historically NWA title matches are 60 minutes. We want to make sure that we don't run out of time, so we're putting this on right now in case it goes the entire 60 minutes. And it's like, man, that is a good cover for their decision to put this match there. That's a pretty good idea to fall back on that. And yeah, huge surprise. Truth actually has fans in the crowd, which seemed very odd considering how big of a heel he's working. Ends up being a huge power bomb. Shamrock seems to just have really lost a step in this run. Just not the same as WWF. He dropped Truth on his head at one point on the slowest looking Hurricane Rana I've ever seen. The crowd was really hot for it. The locker room starts coming out, which I thought was, it's always a good touch in a title match to show the importance of the title when everyone it just kind of comes out and views the match. Thought it was very odd that Ron or Don? Don Harris is the one we're seeing right now.
I think it's Don.
Yeah, Don. He came out. Yeah, Big Heavy D, was staying true to his SS tattoo, standing guard, making sure no one could get past. I'm not going to let that go, by the way. It's going to be an episode. And, they fight on the floor. Apollo came out. Apollo still pissed that he got passed over for the shot when he was the number one contender. There's a brawl. He misses Truth. He kind of grazed Ken Shamrock with the super kick. But Shamrock has to sell it that he's dead, and Truth, Ron Williams, hits a cutter and wins the title. Called it Truth or Consequences, but it was basically a diamond cutter. And Truth just pretty much seems incredulous. And did this last 60 minutes? No, it did not. I think it lasted about 10.
Your official match time was 9:17.
Not even 10.
Not even 10. But Ron Killings...
This could go an hour. This could go an hour,
This could go an hour, boys. Ron Killings is your new NWA World Champion. Why? I'll
Honestly,
tell you why.
I think...
Good.
Go ahead.
No, please. You may back up my point. I want you to go first.
I mean, yes, I don't want you holding me back like the people held back Ron Killings.
Oh, God.
No, I think... Yes, them. I think this was a bad match, but it was the right conclusion to that match. Because as much as I love Ken Shamrock, he just was not working as your champion. He didn't feel special. He didn't feel... He didn't feel like, the guy. Where I could make the argument that he was maybe, even though he's the NWA champion, he's maybe the fifth most important person on this show after Jeff Jarrett, after AJ Styles, after Jerry Lynn, after The Truth. Then maybe we get to Ken Shamrock. But even in this match, as Steve was saying, Truth was getting, to me, the lion's share of the response and the reaction from the crowd, whereas Ken Shamrock, who is not only the babyface, but your champion, people just kind of they just kind of fell flat. So I like the importance given to the title, and I like the switch to Truth, which I think opens up more possibilities for contenders and challengers. But the match itself was just bad, and there was way too much interference.
I don't know how much longer Ken Shamrock stays in TNA here.
I don't either.
We'll definitely find out. But yeah, it was not a great match, but it was a really cool moment, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I never thought, and this maybe is just me, but I never felt like Ken Shamrock was actually in the promotion. He never felt like he was part of it. He felt like the guy who happened to be champion who shows up once in a while. Like, he never felt like a TNA employee.
Mm-hmm. He was like Brock Lesnar, except he was there pretty much every week.
Exactly. But he just felt detached. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Exactly. He was full-time, part-time. So, Ron Killings having the belt now makes it feel like they're in the promotion.
Yes.
So I think it's I think it was a big move. I think it's time for Kenny to leave. This roster still fleshing itself out, but also needs an identity. And I think having a guy that feels part-time is not the right way to go. So, I don't know, Steve, do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. He just doesn't fit and doesn't really seem to have the charisma that he did just a couple of years before in WWF.
I agree.
Or even UFC for that matter. Like, I don't know if he's just there catching paycheck, or if
that's what I think.
Not happy to be there at all. Yeah, I don't know, but if this is it for Ken, and I like Ken Shamrock, I'm a fan of his. I enjoyed his WWF run. He was a reason why I went back and watched the first couple of UFCs when I was younger. Was because this guy seemed really excited. I want to see him go into a legit fight.
Right.
But yeah, here it's just you forget that he's a champion sometimes.
And I don't know how much of that is on Ken, because I do think Ken shoulders some of the blame, but I also don't know how much of it is on TNA, because they didn't present this guy as the baddest man on the planet. They didn't present this guy as the world beater, because I've seen some Bellator shows recently that Ken Shamrock has been on, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And even though he's too damn old and too damn shot and has taken too much abuse over his career to still be fighting, they present him as, this is a legend. This is a dude that should be respected. And I never really got that during this TNA run. It was more like, the name, but we're not going to tell you why you should respect the name.
Right. I agree.
Do you think it's because he was already the NWA champion coming? I don't know, he wasn't, because they did it the first show.
Yeah.
But maybe it was like the NWA was saying, this is our guy, and then they knew all along that they wanted to split off from the NWA. I give them just throwing stuff out there. They wanted to have their own guy.
On paper, it's not a bad move, though. Mm-hmm. On paper, it's not a bad move to put the title on Ken, but you have to follow up on it. And I don't think Ken, with his promos and some of his in-ring performances, followed through, and certainly the company didn't follow through. So I don't think Ken Shamrock being your world champion to start off the promotion is necessarily a bad move, Scotty. I just think the way they executed it didn't do anybody any favors, especially the audience.
I agree. I think having Ron Killings as champion for the time being, because again, obviously, it seems like, and we'll get into it more later, but again, the prevalent creative hook is that the number one heel in the company is Jeff Jarrett, and eventually, at some point, I'm sure the belt's going to be around his waist. So it's just a question of what the path is to get there. And right now, Ron Killings is already a heel. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I didn't expect get a cool little historical moment. So.
Yeah, very historical. Ron Killings, your first African American NWA heavyweight champion. So out of nowhere, because I don't even remember him winning. To be honest, it kind of came by surprise. To be honest with you,
I don't remember him winning that early.
I don't either.
So yeah,
no, I agree with you, Steve. I thought it was like the following year. I didn't know it was here. So the show's off to a decent start. We got a great opener and a world title change.
It gets a little dicey where they have Apollo coming out and Steamboat gives him a title shot, and Jeff Jarrett claims there's reverse discrimination on, and Steamboat's really struggling on the microphone at this point.
Yeah. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah, uncomfortable, and turned Tennessee's Jeff Jarrett, even though he's been the worst heel in this show. Like the first 7, he's been annoying. He's interfered in every match. He's destroying everyone with unsafe chair shots. He's just an absolute jerk. And by doing this and playing this reverse discrimination card, all of a sudden he's a big face with some of these people
I know.
in the crowd.
Yes,
And
all these people who've been held down by blacks and Hawaiians.
Yeah.
In the South.
Yes, that huge Hawaiian cartel that is just running every industry in Nashville.
Yeah, the un-Americans from Hawaii and Puerto Rico.
The un-Americans.
Like, I don't get why they did this, because they should have let this moment breathe.
Right.
With Killings winning the title. And then the next logical step is to have his first defense be against Apollo. Mm-hmm. And then you obviously would want him to retain, and then we get to Jeff Jarrett. And so it's like, it's very Russo-ish if you watched a lot of Vince Russo's WCW booking, where he would have some good ideas, but he would throw all of those ideas in one segment instead of starting out and getting a month's worth of programming. You just blew it in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Insane.
I mean,
They're not letting it breathe.
Or if we're, worst case scenario, instead of trying to be edgy, just like, the storyline's already there. Jarrett has wanted a shot since day one. He's said he's going to keep destroying the show until he gets what he wants. Apollo, undefeated, deserves the next title shot. There's the story right there. Why do you have to, go for this utterly cheap heat with...
And then after that segment, we get this one. And once again, NWA TNA takes a moderately decent show start and sends it right into the gutter. Yes. The commode.
It's a commode inside a sewer, inside a gutter.
Exactly.
The Russian nesting doll of terrible wrestling.
Yes. Inside an enigma, inside a puzzle. Disco comes out because he's just called Disco.
His terrible haircut's still there.
His terrible haircut's still there, and his fancy pants set gone, replaced by a chalkboard and a sign that's spelled wrong. Earlier in the evening, the Dupps kept going to Ricky Steamboat saying, we want to do something, and Will could care less, said, do whatever you want. Well, they decided to take over Disco's set, and then, Steve, you may...
God damn it.
You're like, Scott, keep talking, keep shit.
That's what I was hoping. That's what literally I was thinking in my head. Okay, excellent. Scott's going to go through this whole thing.
No.
Okay. The Dupps announce their first Dupp Cup Invitational, and then I thought to myself, I think I've heard this before, and I don't think this is going to go well. Said it's going to be the new hardcore division in TNA. There are rules that they supposedly wrote, and they're like cute little kid misspelling in there because, the Dupps aren't very bright. So a convoluted point system where if you put your opponent through the table, you get 2.5 points. If you put it through a burning table, I wrote some down, but not all of them, you get 5 points. Head in the toilet, I think they said commode, 2.5 points. If it's filled with sheet, 3.5 points. I think there was goose a woman or a man, hit Jeremy Borash, which was kind of funny, hit the Oli at the ticket booth, use a farm animal, some sort of hobby horse type thing. Introduce opponent to Jay, which I didn't know what it meant. And my favorite, which is really how I tried to get rid of Jordan Duncan, if you spank him in the butt, you get points. You get
plenty of it. So,
But the problem was that Jordan liked it, so we all lost 2.5 points. And eventually it looks like it's going to end up with Stand Up versus Disco Inferno, who's just furious. Paulina comes back out from forgot that she was around from last.
Yeah, from last.
You know who that is? You know who that is? That's Paulina from Tough Enough. Okay, you're gonna have to give me more clues. I still don't know who that is. So Stand Up puts Fluffed Up on the line, and one could beat the Dupps. And of course, if you have a woman on the line, you got to get Ed Ferrar in there with his fake dreadlocks and his Hawaiian shirt open, revealing his chest hair. And I realize that I have a male body hair fetish apparently going on tonight between Ed Ferrar and Bullet Farm Armstrong. But yeah, this is just gross. This wasn't even wrestling. I remember hearing a podcast about a year ago. Cabana said, "What's so great about wrestling is that it could be anything, and it just so happens to be in a ring. It could be comedy, it could be whatever." And this disproves that fact. Because this was... They couldn't keep the math right, which was one of my favorite parts of it. They had like 4 people there. They couldn't keep track of the score. They, Ferrar bashed Borash right away, or Ferrar did. Somehow got 3.5 points for no reason, and I have the only thing I could guess was that he pinched Don's butt. Hitting with a horse. If they couldn't, I said they can't figure this out. Why should I even bother watching this? I think Paulina eventually hit one of the Dupps, and I don't even remember what the finish was. Oh, the Dupps chokeslammed Ferrara through a table to win.
To hit 10 points, yeah.
Yeah, to get 10 points. And the best part of the match is that we didn't get Ed Ferrara for the rest of the show.
Amen.
Yeah, I can't do this justice. I wish I could do this justice, but it wasn't even bad funny. Like, Puppet with the gun, or even Puppet with the trash can. Like, it wasn't bad funny where you can't look away. It was stupid.
It was too long. It was too long.
Yeah,
the whole thing went too long.
Mm-hmm.
Ate up way too much time. It's like those. And Vince Russo was always notorious for this, particularly in WCW, where something could be funny for 4 minutes, but he's got to make it go 9 minutes, and by a minute, are like, all right, the funny's gone, go away. And that's exactly what this was. It's exactly what it was. It was funny for the first 3 or 4 minutes, and then it went too long.
A segment is bad when the best part of it and the character giving the best performance is famed MTV's Tough Enough alumnus Paulina Thomas. She was the best part of this segment. She was the only person who did not offend me in some way.
Yeah. Do you remember in one of the first episodes we talked about how we felt that some of the stuff on these shows was merely for Ed Ferrar and Vince Russo to live about their fantasies?
Yep.
I feel like this was one of them. Like, Ed Ferrar can be, a wrestler. He's fighting for the woman. And part of it, when they were going through the rules, which also lasted way too long, I think that some of it was just them saying, look, we can swear on TV.
Yeah, because
this is a pay-per-view.
Like,
we can swear and say words we can't. It's like...
I agree with you, Nate, when Disco just happened to randomly call Goldilocks a dumb bitch. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that whatsoever. They were it almost like they were forcing it.
Yeah, like, hey, this is edgy. And it's even in 2002. It's just dumb. You can't say, oh, it's just that time. No, it's just like Mr. Russo and Emperor's id just run wild.
You know what's offensive? This fucking football game that's on right now. Atlanta has 15 fucking penalties.
Yeah, this is both offenses have looked terrible.
This is an awful football game. The Eagles are losing.
This football game is bad, but it's still better than this segment.
Yes.
Still better than this damn Dupp Invitational.
Matt Ryan's terrible pick at the 2-yard line is not as offensive as anything in this segment. All right, let's hustle along here.
Yeah.
This next match, do we go backstage here, Nate, Steve? No?
We had the Monty Brown sit-down interview, which was going really well.
Yep.
That's
right.
Then
Monty Brown.
And the Elix Skipper came out
and painted him.
Tossed some yellow paint on them, which I thought that, old school wrestling, they paint the yellow stripe to say he's yellow like a coward. And I'm thinking that's what they were trying to get across, but they didn't really say it. But whatever. I mean, they had that whole segment of Elix Skipper coming out of nowhere lasted like 30 seconds. So
yeah.
Yeah, next match would be the First Blood match because of the Odd Dad gimmick in 1 week between Don Harris and Malice, the battle of the worst tattoos in the wrestling business.
Yep.
The first thing I thought about, and it's funny that this parallels our last segment, like who asked, did anybody buy All In for a Stephen Amell match? Did anybody in history ask for a Don Harris singles run? So, yep, there's lots of fighting in the crowd. Lots of that old ECW style.
I heard there's a lot of furor about his singles run, Steve.
Oh, you definitely.
Oh. That's awful. Oh, my God. Did Jordan Duncan leave you guys jokes to read? Jesus Christ.
As bad as that joke was, it was still better than the Dupps segment.
Oh, my God. Jordan Duncan is the final solution. Anyway,
oh no, there's a lot of walking around. Someone got thrown off a stage into a barrier. I think it was Don Harris. Slash him out because it's a First Blood match. So you can essentially have interference, and he took out what looked to be, and I don't even know if this is a joke or if this is true. Like, do you ever see like a child's pumpkins carving kit where you they have that little tiny saw so the kid can cut the triangles for the eyes out? That's what it looked like. It looked like a little tiny toy child's pumpkin carving knife. And then Slash got busted open somehow, even though he wasn't in the match. And Nate, this is up your alley. I was thinking that if this was WCW 2000, that would mean the match would be over at that point. Mitchell got covered in his own fake sheep, goat blood. And that the weirdest part of the match, like if that stuff wasn't weird, there was like a Don Harris hit Malice with a side slam. Oh no, Malice hit Don Harris with just like a sidewalk slam, and somehow a sidewalk slam busted Don Harris wide open. Not the chair shots, not the getting thrown off the stage into a barrier, not Slash attempting to cut him with a tiny child pumpkin carver, a side slam. There was nothing in the ring. It wasn't on a chair or anything like that. That was a match. I didn't do star ratings because I don't like rating hardcore matches or matches with white supremacists.
Hey, they were good wrestlers on both sides.
Yeah, there were. God.
I actually thought this match was entertaining. It was a decent little First Blood brawl here.
For a Don Harris match, this wasn't a bad match, but I just hated that finish. Like Steve said, the finish kind of came out.
It did come out of nowhere. It made no sense. The
first 2 minutes were pretty good. Slash interfering was but when he started taking out whatever that was, and then they didn't even use it, which was the really weird thing. That's when it just completely fell apart.
I feel like Mitchell's faction needed a win though, because they seem to have gotten fairly humiliated often since TNA started. So I think they needed a win, and that's why they got it here. Your time is 6:29. The Dub Cup match was 5:43. Not that we give a shit. It felt like the whole segment felt like 45:43, but
easily over 10 minutes with the setup.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. But Malice wins in a First Blood. 6:29 your total. Do I remember Goldilocks again?
Yes.
Right?
now Sonny Siaki is everyone's looking for Ricky Steamboat.
Yes.
Yes. Goldilocks looking for Taylor Vaughn. Siaki's looking for Steamboat. Then here comes Bruce, who wants to take on Taylor Vaughn in an evening gown match. And then for some reason, we had the AJ Jerry Lynn pull part. Now we have an AJ Low-Key part in the women's dressing room. And it's just like, woo, go, go, go again. Like, that was like probably 90 seconds. And that leads into the Apollo versus Jarrett match, which Ricky Steamboat said he's your referee. You know, he said that he was going to be the referee. So why people were looking backstage for Ricky Steamboat when he was going to be the referee?
Point of order, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I love Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat is one of my 5 favorite wrestlers ever. Like, he was, even before Sting, was like the baby face of my childhood. But there's too much damn Ricky Steamboat on the show.
A lot of it.
It diminishes him every time he comes out. Like, if you're the boss, if Ricky Steamboat's the boss, Steve, we've seen him argue with people. We've seen him get involved in pull-aparts. Now we see him being a referee. Like, the boss of the whoever is the corporate owner of McDonald's, you don't see him in the drive-thru. You don't see him taking orders at the front counter. You don't see him sweeping the parking lot. Ricky Steamboat, delegate.
I agree.
He got Bullet Barb in his red tank top just right there waiting for
Yes, make him the ref.
And he's got Don Harris, so. Anyway, so this is, in essence, a number 1 contenders match. The winner gets the truth. I love how the announcers just kept saying that. Get the truth. They get the truth.
Yeah, and this is where the crowd just went bizarro.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett all of a sudden becomes a mega face. You had people, for the most part, booing him. You had some people cheering for him in previous weeks just because he's, the hometown guy. Steamboat gets booed. Over the rest of the show, people are chanting, Steamboat sucks. Ricky Steamboat, like one of the most, like as you were saying, Nate, one of the biggest baby faces of all time. Just because Steamboat is trying to play it fair down the middle, they're booing him. He snatched a chair away from...
It's those Hawaiians, Steve.
Yeah.
Southern Hawaiians.
Yes, this Hawaiian from Charlotte, North Carolina. We can't trust him.
I popped it open on a slam, like I had first slam into the stairs, which, I don't mind blood, in a pay-per-view, and they could even have it once a pay-per-view if they want to, but when you just had a first blood match, after a while, it starts to lose its importance. Jarrett, what happened at the end? They had one of my least favorite finishes ever that they really didn't have to do. It didn't seem like they were, going anywhere with Apollo at this point. But they did that double German suplex spot. Jarrett looked like his shoulders were down. Steamboat got to 2. Jarrett got his shoulder up. Steamboat counted 3 anyways. And so my initial thought was, Steamboat hates Jarrett. He's screwing Jeff Jarrett over. And then it turned out that Jarrett wins because Apollo's shoulders were down. Even though I just don't like that finish.
I don't either.
Apollo is clearly doing the offensive move. And, Jarrett's not on top of him. So, Jeff Jarrett's your winner in a really lousy finish. But besides the finish, the match, I wasn't offensive. Maybe it was because I was so down from the pre-kill segments, but I am not a Jeff Jarrett fan. But it was decent.
Yeah.
Not anything great, but like your normal run-of-the-mill like Raw match that you'd see today.
Right.
I think the problem is I'm just not really invested in any guy at this point. Like, there's no reason why I care about Apollo. He's won a couple matches. And
he was so serious in that sit-down interview with Mike Tenay, Steve.
Yeah, he was. He was mad. And Jeff Jarrett, there's no reason to cheer for him. He's a jerk. So there's no...
He's an American jerk, Steve.
Yeah.
He's not a Hawaiian jerk.
And really, Steamboat does the swerve, says Jarrett doesn't get Ron Killings. They got to be tag team partners and go against for the title. So, to your point, Nate, about the Flying Elvises splitting up, now we have Jarrett and Truth teaming up who don't like each other, and AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn who each other, and it's for the title. So you're guaranteed two partners who don't like each other winning the titles.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's obvious Apollo is they're trying to make Apollo the TNA Rock, and it's just not working. It's just not working. So, Jeff Jarrett's your number contender, and at some point down the line, he will face Ron Killings for the NWA title.
You got this one, Scott.
Well, earlier in the evening, I think we forgot about this. Earlier in the evening, Bruce, otherwise known as Miss TNA, good grief, walked in to the locker room and challenged Taylor Vaughn if she can have her Miss TNA crown back in an evening gown match. And then, to continue the trend of politically correct, non-offensive things, she calls him a homo, throws him into a shower, and turns the fucking shower on. Did they think because this was in the South that nothing would offend anybody?
I don't know. And again, there's nothing to show that he is a homosexual. It's like he's cross-dressing.
Yes, just because he has a rainbow in his tights. Not fair. Which brings us to this, an evening gown match for Miss TNA between Bruce from the Rainbow Express. I almost called him Rainbow Connection. Poor Kermit. And Taylor Vaughn. The match is 202. He hits a fucking gigantic suplex. And very delicately, did you notice how nice he was? He very delicately took her dress off.
Yes.
Very nicely. Show her ample bosom. And he wins the match and keeps the Miss TNA title. What the fuck is this, Steve?
I don't know. And then he stripped down to his underwear.
Yeah, and they had to blotch out whatever. What the fuck was this? What was this? What is going on here? Who thinks this is a good idea? Well, we all know whose idea it was. Let's not kid ourselves. Right? He's there now, right? Yo, Bruce.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce, dress as a chick, dude. Dress as a chick.
Bro.
Listen, bro. And then don't wear any underwear and we'll zap out your doing.
I wonder if they actually zapped it out on the original pay-per-view. Yeah, the star of this match, though, is Lenny Lane, who got the hell out of Nashville when they saw where this angle was going. Shout out Lenny Lane.
I thought you were going to say the star of this match was Bruce's dong.
No.
Maybe he could have been at All In this past weekend.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Bruce is one of the Druids.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. What the fuck we had to watch here. Why don't we get to the good stuff?
Let's just go to the main event.
Yeah, let's just
we
get
got
to
some shilling, and I do want to point out Don West's awesome silk shirt matching silk tie.
Oh my God, he's like fucking Regis on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Very impressive.
Yeah, that was good. I like it.
So our last match. What's that? Oh, I thought you had more point about his excellent tie.
Oh no, I was gonna move on. You can go ahead and announce it.
Our main event. Awesome Steve, awesome Nate. Our second title match of the evening, a triangle match. Not a triple threat, a triangle match. For the NWA TNA X Division Championship. Your champion, AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, and Low-Key, who have been brawling on and off for the past, pretty much for the first 7 shows of this promotion's history. This match was fantastic, Steve. Would you say... I'll ask you and then you, Nate. Would you say this match has been the best we've seen of the 8 shows? Close.
I thought that at first view. I might have to go back, and there is, I think, one other X Division match. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was that 4-way. That was really good.
Oh, the 4-way was fantastic, yes.
But this, a 4-star match easily for me. This was... I really liked the originality of this match. It was a triple threat, but it wasn't a triple threat like every other one where 2 people are in the ring and someone gets thrown out on like a clothesline over the top rope, but yet they stay out minutes because of that.
Right.
They did not leave the ring. I don't know if they did it all. No, they never left the ring to do like dives and stuff like that. Like they would. All three men stayed in the ring the entire match. And until the end, I apologize. The very, very end, Loki got thrown over the top rope. So that was really cool to me. They did like a Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko spot, but using three people at the same time.
Oh yeah,
that was really cool.
That was epic. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Just breaking out moves we haven't seen in the first 7 episodes. I don't want to do play-by-play on this because it was a long match.
It was chaos. I agree.
Yeah. The crowd, like, after watching Drek for the last, 50 minutes or so, just, they were super for Jarrett, but they just came, they were great in this match. I really thought they did a good job, like, chanting TNA and giving standing ovations at the right time. They were pretty much for Loki. AJ Styles was a clear heel here. He had kind of been going back and forth, but he had like a smirk on the whole time. He was being kind of sneaky. And the finish was after exchanging just a ton of crazy moves. It was like a Styles clash that was blocked. Loki had a dragon sleeper that he did while hanging upside down. They exchanged each other's finishers. I think Jerry Lynn did Loki went for the key crusher and it was blocked and he went to the Styles clash. Then Lynn did a key crusher. Then Aid cradle pile driver.
I know.
It was Tenay lost his voice. He was going nuts.
Yeah, it was chaos. Yep.
Yeah. There's like an unprotected chair shot, and then Loki went on top after a spiral tap. Loki was on top after the chair shot. So AJ went up to the top rope to do a spiral tap to break it up. And he hit it, but Loki never got off of Jerry Lynn. So they counted a 3. And Loki's new champion. And that was the other original part that I really liked. So often these days you'll have, in one match 10 times someone will break a pinfall. But the guy will still be on top of the other person. And it looks dumb. Like, okay, I hit the person, but they're still being pinned. So why does that count as a kick out? And so here we saw, AJ hit a huge move, but Loki was still stretched on top of him, and so he got the win.
I was blown away by this match. I didn't mind the crazy brawl in the back throughout the show. I kind of dug it. It told a story that, the X Division title is just as important as the world title. But Nate, these three hit the throttle. And I feel like Loki has been kind of holding back, waiting for this moment. And meanwhile, here we go. And he comes out of nowhere with a kind of creative ending and is your new X Division champion. This was a tremendous match.
Yeah, this is by far one of the, if not the best match we've seen. It's certainly one of the top 2 or 3. I really liked that initial X Division title match, but I thought this was right up there with it, if not better. The only small thing that I would kind of scratch my head about in terms of the things, they were into this match, but I thought that there'd be a bigger reaction for AJ and Jerry going at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's been our primary story almost literally since episode 1.
Right.
It didn't seem like they were too into that, but they were certainly behind Low Ki. I thought, like, I've always been a fan of Low Ki, even that terrible NXT run.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, because Low Ki doesn't know how to be a WWE star, so we've got to have McCool teach him.
Yes, to be their little pet, like meat.
Yes. But this was a great match. It didn't completely redeem this, but it was like we had 2 wonderful pieces of artisan bread the first half of this show and this match, and in between was like a bunch of rancid meat.
To give us rancid beef. Yeah. It does continue the AJ Jerry Lynn storyline because AJ didn't get pinned, so they got that to hang on for a little bit, and they're still the tag team champions. So So 2 titles changed tonight, gentlemen. Both singles belts changed. Ron Killings, your new world champion, and now Loki, your new X Division champion. So in that sense, kind of a productive. Got some title changes, but the Dub Cup thing, I think, just took the thing right down the stinker. And I feel like it's been like 3 straight shows now where in ring we've had a pretty good. Are the refs going to blow this? Sorry. Matt Ryan just threw it out of the end zone with 1 second, 4th down. However, it looks like there's a penalty on the Eagles, which means which means the Falcons will get one more play. This is tremendous.
It's illegal, which could be the story of Bruce's autobiography.
Yes. Illegal touching by Goldilocks. Yeah, I feel like these last 3 TNA shows, the in-ring has not been that bad, actually. But they overdid it with the... Here's a problem. I've said this many times, and the same thing was the case in WCW when Russo was there. Russo had great skits in WWE, but he had guys that could execute them. He had good actors. He had guys with charisma. He had The Rock. He had... And out of bounds. Game over. And... He had The Rock. He had Stone Cold. He had Triple H, Mick Foley, The Undertaker. These guys, hey, Apollo is not The Rock. And the rest of these guys don't have that charisma to pull off these long-winded skits. They don't.
No.
And they suck because of it.
The other thing Russo had was an editor, which he does not have here.
Well, that's true.
Somebody to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't go 15 minutes with this damn Dub Cup. Maybe we shouldn't be out here having Bruce in an evening gown match. Like even the best evening gown match, pretty terrible match.
Yes.
Like maybe we shouldn't have Jeff Jarrett out here decrying reverse racism from these vile Hawaiians in Puerto Rico.
Vile Hawaiians.
I think that there's a really good 1 hour show in this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But, we had to throw in all... Like, this is the first time in a while where there's been stuff this egregiously bad. Because I feel like the last 2 or 3 episodes have been trending upwards in terms of getting rid of a lot of that stuff.
Right.
But I think this was like Russo. He had his Popeye, Scotty. He's stood all he can stands and he can't stands no more. And he has to get all of his stupid ideas out here for the people.
Exactly. But unfortunately, I think it's taken down the quality of these shows, which have, top to bottom, at least in ring, have not been utterly horrendous. And the X Division, as it attempted to do early on and be something different, has been different and has been tremendous. So through the first 8 shows, guys, the in-ring has been middle road, trending up a little bit. The X Division's been tremendous, but the NWA World Title picture's been kind of a muddy mess. Although now with Ken Shamrock gone, and I think it's a little more tight. I think we're going to see more out of the
heavyweight,
the world title picture. Correct. I think with Shamrock gone, it tightens it up a bit. My opinion. So.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, if you looked at this card overall and did the opener, followed by a Jarrett Apollo 1 Contenders match that you don't have the racism stuff in, it's just like, why is Apollo getting this shot? I want a shot.